During camp, he used to have a seminar, and there's some philosophy involved and some strategy. But the one thing that has stayed with me was this: practice until you get bored. From beyond that boredom, practice until you're exhausted. Then and only then will a technique become a part of you. They don't practice to that point where they get bored or when they don't feel like going into practice. That's when you should practice.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of A Black Belt Way of Life. I am your host, Master Joseph Lupo Jr., and tonight, joining us from the great state of Minnesota, we have Master Sergeant Lewis Davis. And one thing about Mr. Davis, a teammate of mine on the USA Masters team. Sir, how are we doing tonight?
Blessed, sir. Peace and blessings to you and your audience. It's the New York Black Belt family.
Oh, thank you, sir. Very, very much appreciated. It is my honor, to have you on this show. I have an amazing admiration for, I've had past guests, in law enforcement, and I've told them I have a huge admiration for those that, protect and serve us. And I feel the same way about the military, sir. You guys make it possible for us to live and breathe every day. So for that, you have my deepest appreciation, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah.
Whew.
So we're going to really dive into your history tonight, your journey, in the Taekwondo world, in regards of Taekwondo, if the audience doesn't know, you are a former two-time national middleweight champion. You have great accomplishments, also a member of the All-Army Taekwondo Team. You've traveled all over the world to compete. So we're going to dive into all of that, but before we get into that, a word from our official apparel company, Best Martial Arts, Muto USA. For all your martial arts needs, their notes are in our show notes. For KickFit, an amazing pair of Taekwondo shoes, BBWOL at checkout for a nice little discount on a nice pair of martial arts shoes. Sir, let's dive right into it.
All right.
A big part of a black belt way of life is, the initial inception, how you got into the martial arts. I love hearing these stories. What was your inspiration? How did you get your start in the martial arts?
Oh, well, I'll set the Wayback Machine to the 1970s. So
Oh,
Minneapolis,
wow.
Minnesota is where I grew up, but I was born in Chicago, Illinois, and my father was a practitioner of Jidokwan. This is something I learned later.
Okay.
And one of my earliest memories was in our apartment. I would get up in the morning. He would be in a horse stance in his gi, practicing his basic blocks very slowly. I left an imprint. Then, of
Mm-hmm.
course, by the time I was about 3 or 4, I was exposed to the Green Hornet series. But I really didn't do anything about
Oh.
it until I was about 14 or 15. Um, my mother had married a gentleman named Solomon Suggs, my stepfather, and I later learned he had martial arts training, so he started teaching me basics. From there, a local red belt living in my apartment complex wanted to spar with me, and well, that sparring match ended very quickly, but he took me under his wing and started training me and got me into tournament
Oh,
sparring.
wow.
Point
Mm-hmm.
fighting I got hooked. I couldn't I was too skinny to play football. I didn't know a thing about basketball except how to watch the stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
something about point fighting grabbed my attention. Hey, man, I get to do this. So I
Yeah.
got hooked. And as my mother can attest, during those years, we used to have one of those floor model TVs. You remember the big wooden
Mm-hmm.
model Curtis Mathis TVs?
Oh, yeah.
Well, when I
Big piece of furniture. That thing was heavy to
you
move.
ain't kidding. But
No, you put that thing down, you weren't moving it.
oh yes, when I
Yeah.
started winning, the top of that TV was filled with trophies. along
Wow.
with the left side of it and the right side of it. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I started racking up quite a bit of success there. Um,
Mm-hmm.
my stepmother's one of her brothers came up to Bloomington, Minnesota, a suburb outside of Minneapolis, and started teaching Ed Parker's Kenpo system. So I joined his club for a little while. When I turned 17 or 18, I came into contact with a man named Gary Eshelman, and he was teaching a hybridized style of Kung Fu out of his garage. And he accepted myself and a close friend of mine, Keith Johnson, and we began training in this hybridized style. But I still had that tournament bug, so it worked out between him and another gentleman named Dave Bateman, who ran a school called what was it? Expert Karate. He's teaching Taekwondo. Don't ask.
Mm-hmm.
Even I couldn't figure that one out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But he was involved with the USTU style sparring, something I was very curious
Okay.
about, and he promoted me to the rank of green belt because I was still a low-ranking student when I left my uncle's place. And in Kung Fu,
Mm-hmm.
there is no ranking system. At least with my instructor, there isn't. But 1993, that is where everything changed. The national championships were held in St. Paul, Minnesota. Mr.
Yes.
Bateman
Yes.
was tasked with singing the national anthem. I mean, the guy's got some pipes on him.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I was allowed to be a volunteer. So I'm roaming the area of the St. Paul Civic Center. It's now called the Excel Energy Center now. But coming out the doors was the Army Taekwondo Team in two columns. Um, I'm like, who are these guys? I looked closely. They're wearing these gold uniforms with black lettering on it, and it clearly said Army on it. My chin hit the
Mm-hmm.
floor, and I'm like, what? These
Wow.
military's got teams? I searched the stands, found the Navy, found the Air Force, found the Marines, and I quietly promised myself the minute I saw all of this, if I ever get in the military, I'm getting on one of these teams. I
Oh wow.
found a recruiter.
So martial arts was how you got involved in the military.
Yeah, yes, it was.
Taekwondo.
Yes,
Wow.
it was. After completing basic, I got sent to Fort Hood, Texas. I wanted to go to Korea, but they sent me to Texas, and that was where my journey in Taekwondo really picked up and started moving. I came under the
Mm-hmm.
guidance of he's now Dr. Michael Bennett. Back then, it was we just simply referred to him as Coach Bennett. He held the rank of sergeant, and he was assigned to my
Mm-hmm.
battalion. So he gets wind of this kid outside of the barracks doing Muay Thai style round kicks at a very large oak tree in the front yard and in the front of the building. And
Yeah.
he came, sought me out, and gave me the opportunity. He said, "Come and try out," and that was the beginning of it. Along with Todd Angel, who was his assistant coach, who was a middleweight for the Army team at the time. Coach Bennett himself was a heavyweight for the team. Kevin Williams, whom you've met, um,
Mm-hmm.
he
Mm-hmm.
was initially a middleweight, and I was training to be a welterweight. Him, Howard Clayton, and another gentleman, God rest his soul, Andrew Roberts. All of these people took me under their wing and gave me the tools necessary to go to team trials the following year at Fort Indian Town Gap. And it's, without going into a lot of detail, Joe, it was full throttle ever since. Um, some of my adventures took me over into Germany, and I didn't have the support like I had in Texas. See, when I got on the Fort Hood team, in lieu of my duties, I was able to train full time with Coach Bennett. My place of duty was Abrams Field House, or wherever we had training, and
Mm-hmm.
it was it was one of my best years in the Army because I was doing something that would enable me to stand out amongst my peers. But
Okay.
when I got to Germany, I had to go pull all that out of my hat. But this coach Rafael Medina, who was alongside
Mm-hmm.
um, Bobby Clayton, who was also the coach of the Army team. Both of these men are legends. I think you may have crossed paths with Coach Medina
Yes,
as a
sir.
referee,
As a referee, yes, sir.
but
Gentlemen.
he was one of the coaches for the Army team. Uh,
Hmm.
those two, they they were the secret sauce to what the Army team had become. And I was fortunate enough to receive guidance from Coach Medina by phone. Um, I when you were in Germany back then, you know, you had to buy these calling cards to be able to call back to the States. And I
Hmm.
lost count of how much money I spent buying these calling cards and disturbing this man's sleep, unfortunately, in some cases, to get guidance from him. But it was through him that I came under the guidance of the German Armed Forces head coach, Georg Streif. And uh, every time that he hosted a training camp for the German team, I was invited. And uh, Taekwondo, in and of itself, the game and so forth, is pretty straightforward. But each country, I've come to learn, has their own expression of it. And the expression I
Hmm.
gained from the Germans was tenacity. Back then, the Germans were some of the most tenacious fighters I had ever encountered. You know, they
Hmm.
knew they knew what I knew, but there was this uh, forward, this tenacity. I don't know how to describe it other than that, and that stayed with me. You when I've come to our training camps, I think you saw a bit of it.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
So now all these experiences you're having, traveling with, the army, you're going to other countries, you're competing at these events, you're basically just acquiring knowledge and different methods, and you're just incorporating it. Knowledge is power. I've spoken about that on this podcast many, many times. You know, so all this knowledge that you're accumulating basically made you a better fighter, correct?
yes, it did. Um, I started to grasp things, and it the interesting part was every person I came into contact with when I was in Germany and in Korea saw something that has stayed with me. That they saw in me what Coach Bennett and the members of the Fort Hood team and what Coach Clayton and Coach Medina saw in me. That I was trainable.
Mhm.
That I was highly trainable. They gave me something.
Coachable. And that's such an important, I preach that to my students all the time. Even my son, who's getting into, you know, a good high level of soccer, the main thing that, is always preached to kids and even adults alike is, in order to succeed, we have to be coachable.
Mhm.
It's so important, such an important term.
It sums up like this, and this is coming directly from Coach Clayton. During camp, he used to have a seminar, and there's some philosophy involved and some strategy. But the one thing that has stayed with me was this: practice until you get bored. From beyond that boredom, practice until you're exhausted. Then and only then will a technique become a part of you. What
Oh,
that
wow.
trans what that
I
translates
like that.
yeah, what it translates into is this. A lot of people I've noticed wait till they get to the dojang or to the gym to train. So in in some regards, they acquire the knowledge and they leave it right where they got it. They don't take it with them. They don't practice when they're at home. They don't practice
Mhm.
um, when they don't practice to that point where they get bored or when they don't feel like going into practice. That's when you should practice, or when you are practicing to the point to where you start to feel exhausted mentally, physically, and where you just want to just, man, I'm done.
Mhm.
That is where you keep going. Hearing it is one
Wow.
thing, but experiencing it, which I have on more than one occasion, that's the difference.
So you're experiencing military life, military taekwondo training. What would you say to our audience is a difference from training taekwondo in the military and training taekwondo at a normal dojang?
Sacrifice, because
Okay.
um, and this is a quote from my book. The military athlete is a different breed of athlete. For we must at all times, regardless of sport, wear two hats. The chief hat is defending our nation and honoring our oath of enlistment, and the other
Mm-hmm.
is that pursuit of athletic excellence. And I'm telling you, um, your military duties come first. Um, that is the difference. On the civilian side of it, you can quit anytime you want to. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
you can walk away. When you're in the military, you've made a commitment, and you are required to honor that commitment, come hell or high water. Now, how do both of those fold in with one another? The discipline in Taekwondo fits, in my opinion, perfectly with the discipline that I gained from the military. That is discipline through
Mm-hmm.
self-discipline. Military disciplines you when you go through boot camp and advanced training to learn your job or your military occupational specialty, and it's ingrained in you so much to where you discipline yourself. And the training I received from Dr. Bennett, from Master Angel, from Master Williams, from Grandmaster Medina, Grandmaster Clayton, and quite a few of our former athletes, uh, and Coach Strife, I disciplined myself. Bennett, Dr. Bennett used to tell me, "You got to want it. Do you want it?" He would always ask that question. Do you want it? Are you willing to put the time in? Or he would say, "You got to want it." And that bounced around in my head. I wanted to prove to him that that I was worthy, that I had what was necessary to go to the next level. So you've gotta want it. You have to be
Mm-hmm.
willing to put that extra time in. There's no shortcuts.
Right, right. I like that. Yeah. There's no shortcuts to success. None.
Well, you and I have chewed some of the same mats, Joe.
That's right. That's right. So now, talking about success, you know, talk to the audience about, you know, when you started experiencing success at a national level, at a world class level.
Whew. To be honest, Joe, the success happened in 2005. So I'd been
Mm-hmm.
competing starting in 1996. When I got on the team in 1997, I always got within striking distance, but I always fell short, by by things that were beyond my control, or
Mm-hmm.
I missed something. I wanted it so bad that I kept going. But when I got my first national medal in 2005, I was elated. I was happy. I was overjoyed. And unfortunately, something else happened. And that same commitment, passion, and discipline I put into to training to get me there, I slacked off in preparation for U.S. team trials. I thought it would be simple, but then once team trials got around the corner, I buckled down and trained as best I could. Unfortunately, I went in there unprepared, and as a result, I have two very long scars on my right arm as a
Mm-hmm.
reminder to, number one, never walk into something unless you are fully prepared for it. And number two,
Sure.
always bring your A game.
Yeah. Sometimes, we have to, unfortunately, we have to learn the hard way, and those are lessons that stay with us forever.
True. Shout out to Anthony Graff because
That's right.
I got these courtesy of him. Uh, this is courtesy of him. These are the surgical scars. Now, the truth is,
Mhm.
um, I I don't feel vengeful or anything else. Every time I look at this, he taught me a valuable lesson. And um, anytime people have asked me, I'm more than willing to talk about this. So
Mhm.
I'm really thankful to him for it because it was a test. All right. Do I want to keep going or do I just quit after my first major injury?
Mhm. Mhm.
It's just quit and back off, retreat. That's not in me.
We're not programmed that way, sir.
Oh no.
You know, um, you brought up, the discipline and, the correlation between the discipline in the military and discipline in Taekwondo and the martial arts, how similar they are to each other. There's a level of perseverance that someone who's never experienced that life would never understand. We it's not it's that old saying, it's not about how many times we get knocked down, it's about how many times we get up. And it's just not in us to stay down,
No,
and you got up and you continued.
more times than I could count. And
Mm-hmm.
um, the hardest, the most difficult point for me was having to deploy. I was
Okay.
positioned to go to U.S. team trials in 2010. I had won my second medal at in uh, in 2009, but orders came down, and I had to go do my job. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it hurt, but the Almighty always has something on the back end for you if you trust in
True.
Him. And um, I went expecting to go do my job, which was a diesel mechanic, be up to my eyeballs in motor parts and grease and tools and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
And instead, I was tasked
And
with
where was
protecting a
this?
chaplain.
Mm-hmm.
Say it again, sir.
Where was this?
Uh,
Where were you getting
2010,
deployed
I
to?
had to deploy to Iraq.
Oh wow. Okay.
That's where, I expected to be a mechanic, but instead, my company commander was very happy that I was able to join the unit, and I was tasked with becoming a chaplain's assistant. So everything I learned about personal security, about protecting an individual who was essentially a priest but was unarmed, I had to learn all of that on the job. That self-discipline
Mm-hmm.
we spoke about earlier, that perseverance and so forth, everything came to bear. That's what enabled me to do my job and get Chaplain Cattleman home safely.
This is all great stuff. I love hearing all this. So now, talk to us a little better about a post military life.
Oh, post-military life. For a little while, after I retired from the military, I continued to train.
And what year was this?
2014, I'm sorry.
Okay.
2014, I retired. I was stationed in Hawaii, so I had to say goodbye to the sunny Aloha State. It
Okay.
and then return back to cold Minneapolis, Minnesota. And, I mean, I was happy to be home until that first snowflake fell and my heart sank because I knew, oh, like, no.
From paradise to snow. Wow.
Yes, sir. But I continued to training. I returned to Gary Eshelman and picked up where I left off at with him. Uh,
Mhm.
but a chance meeting with James Franklin and Ricardo Aguilera kind of goaded me back into Taekwondo one one more time, along with, of course, Jojo Stagen, who he and
Mhm.
Ron Berry run the U.S. Champions Group. And
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
attended the first Champions Gala in Chicago. I maintained a close tie with uh, with with our Armed Forces alumni, and um, around that time continued my education. I work in the tech industry now, but the history of the Armed Forces Taekwondo Team is become my most important achievement because that
Yeah.
book, one
And
team,
that leads me, see, this leads me into what I wanted to talk about now.
okay,
You
let's
know,
go.
I mentioned, you know, your martial arts background. I mentioned your military background. But for the audience listening right now, you're also an author and you actually wrote a book on this. Talk to us about this book.
One team, one fight, one family is the title. It's available on
Mhm.
Amazon. Um, Curiously enough, this project really started in 2007 between myself and Grandmaster Medina. Um, while stationed in North Carolina, he asked me to attend an event as a representative of the Army because he was unable to. Um, Come to find out, it was called the Taekwondo Hall of Fame, and
Mm.
it was the inaugural one held by Gerard Robbins. And
Yes, yes, yes. Grandmaster Jerry Robbins. Yeah.
so that in a combination with Grandmaster Medina's old website. He used to have a website for his school that he ran in Hinesville, Georgia, and it was a sectionary for the United States Armed Forces, and it made me curious. That plus attending the Taekwondo Hall of Fame, I thought that I could readily find information on Google. I was mistaken. Um,
Mm.
Google was not my friend. Google became more of an unwanted of an enemy because it's like, wait a minute, these people must exist. It's the internet. Come on. Uh-uh. No.
Right.
He and I worked together along with Dr. Bennett to make this project happen. Uh, there were documents that I had to go and find. Particular, William D. Baldwin is the father to the Armed Forces Taekwondo program. Uh,
Mm.
I was able to locate him, locate his contact information, and I opened up a dialogue with him. And this is where I started to learn about the nucleus of it. So this was pretty much his idea. As you may or may not know, between the late 70s and early 80s, Taekwondo was on that road uh, to to going to the Olympics. In 1980, Taekwondo was adopted by the International Military Sports Council. Um, am I able to share my screen here? I think it would be easier to show this
Mm-mm.
so everyone could see it. So this is the website for the International Military Sports Council. Taekwondo was officially adopted by the CISM Sports Council in 1980. And the first World Military Championships was held in Seoul, Korea at or around that time. Chief Baldwin happened to be stationed there at that time and tried to get in on it with the service members that were attending the event. Um, it may those individuals may have been U.S. Army soldiers. There's no record of who those service members were that attended that competition representing the United States Army or representing the U.S.
Mm.
Armed Forces. So Chief Baldwin took things in stride, and a short time later, about 3 years later, he had meetings with the USTU President Dong Jae-yang and received a letter. That letter gave him authorization to to set up a team representing the United States military. I have that letter right here, so I'm pretty good at gathering information, as you can tell. This
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
this letter, this is the actual letter, and I physically have this letter in my possession right now. This is what gave birth to the Armed Forces Taekwondo program. It enabled him to
Oh wow.
start building a program where service members could compete. So the first thing he did was he built a team representing the United States Navy, and along with an Air Force captain named Daryl Kabatsu, and Daryl Kabatsu built an Air Force team. He built the Navy team, and they started making plans to host an invitational. Around 1985 is when the Army comes on board. That was Grandmaster Medina, another gentleman named Pedro Lavoy, and Mark Green out of Fort Bragg, North Carolina. Now, Medina and Lavoy met one another. They happened to share a passion for Taekwondo, and they began training. Mark Green joins them a short time later. They enter the state championships and they qualify to go to the nationals.
Mm-hmm.
That became pretty big news on post. So they got support not only from their units and from the base level, but from Department of Army Sports to cover their expenses, and that was the beginning of it. By 19, by late 1985, Chief Baldwin hosts the very first Taekwondo Invitational, and this is hosted in Las Vegas, Nevada, and representatives from each branch of the service would attend this event, and they'd fight for they'd fight just like in a normal tournament, except it's hosted by service members. Now, the person that wins, or the team that won the most, would receive
Oh,
this
nice.
trophy.
We're bringing out some stuff. Nice.
So Chief Baldwin passed this on to me, and he wanted me to maintain it. So just like in the movie Top Gun, the team that won the most would maintain this trophy for 1 calendar year until the next event.
Hmm.
And they would have to bring this
Oh,
trophy
that's
with
really
them. You
cool.
battle for it. If you win, you keep it. If you lose, you got to hand it over to the next team.
Yeah, give it back.
So I apologize for the condition. We're still in the process of getting this thing restored, but it
Hmm.
remains in my possession now. Um, I didn't know about any of this stuff until I went to visit Chief Baldwin 3 years ago. But
Hmm.
um, so for 2 years straight, up until late 1986, this was a hotly contested event. And after several meetings with Navy and Armed Forces Sports, Chief Baldwin gets wind that the Second World Military Championships was around the corner. So both the Navy sports and the Armed Forces sports gives him the green light to host a trial camp and select a team representing all four branches of the military. And that was at
Mm.
Little Creek, Virginia, in a gym called Rockwell Hall Gymnasium. Grandmaster Medina and Master Laboy were among the Army representatives that attended that competition. And
Hmm.
it was 2 weeks of grueling training. As described to me by Chief Baldwin, he had a table. He had a table set up. He had workstations, a training circuit, and he had a long table. On one end of the table, he had a tub of Bengay. On the other end of it, he had a trash can.
That
Now,
kind of training, huh?
oh
Wow.
yeah, it was grueling according to him and some of the others who attended the camp. Now, Bruce Harris, a name you're probably familiar with.
Hmm.
Bruce Harris was his assistant coach for that trial camp. And Bruce Harris sometimes handled some of the strength and conditioning training. This is where I learned about a legend of Master Harris, where he would run barefoot during this trial camp. And then, of
Hmm.
course, when he took over the Army team in 1988, that continued, according to some of the people that were there. But after this 2 week long trial camp, they had a round robin fight off. And the one division that was top heavy was heavyweights. They had like 20 plus heavyweights. Oh, almost
Oh,
forgot.
wow.
Grandmaster Clayton was also in attendance at this camp too. But
Hmm.
due to an injury, he was not able to continue. So a lot of our legends cut their teeth at this camp. And at the end of it, there was a team selected representing all four branches,
Hmm.
just like Chief Baldwin predicted. And it worked. It worked out really well. So what I'm going to show you are two pictures from that year. Let me get them pulled up here. But now these pictures are are also physically in my possession. This is the 1987 Armed Forces team.
Wow.
Um, so if you can see my pointer here, this is Grandmaster Medina in his early days. This is Aaron
Mm.
Sudanowski. I believe that's Timothy Hightower. That is Pedro Lavoy. That is Chief Baldwin in his early days. And as you can see, there are several signatures here. This is Sang-H Kim. Um, I can't remember everyone on here. Um,
Hmm.
Timothy Hightower is in this group. Melvin Boatner is in this group. And as you can see, there are several signatures here from each of the members of the team. So this is an authentic picture. This is not a copy or a duplicate.
Hmm.
Um, and this was taken in South Korea. This is next to it says here United Nations Command and ROKUS Combined Forces Command. So this is the headquarters where both the UN and US and Republic of Korea Armed Forces Command would meet. That place is still that place. When I was there, we were there at we were there for the Masters games. That
Hmm.
building,
In
that
2023.
yeah, It's still there. That building is still there.
Wow.
The next picture is um, at the SISM Games, and this is the entire U.S. Armed Forces team in their dress uniforms, along with a Korean officer. So uh, you can pretty much anyone that's Navy would wear this or this. So there are three Navy personnel, actually four. So one Chief Petty Officer, one Navy officer, and two Navy enlisted. There is Bruce Harris right here. There is
Hmm.
Grandmaster Medina and Master Lavoie right behind. And of course, I think there's one Marine here. Yep, I believe it is. He's difficult to see. But this is the entire United States Armed Forces team at the Second World Military Championships. So this is just a small glimpse into some of the things that Chief Baldwin and others have passed on to me. Um, the book provides some information because I was able to interview certain people that had the greatest effect on the program in those early years. But um, there is more information surfacing. It's it's a task, but it's a labor of love.
Yeah, no, you obviously demonstrated that how much you have to love something to dig so deep as you did, to preserve a history that's very important to you that has shaped your life and could inspire many others. You were inspired to go into the military because of taekwondo.
Oh yes,
And someone that could be listening right now, that could be their inspiration too.
I agree. Um, just as difficult as it is to collect pieces of our history, to find team rosters, to find who did what and how, the most challenging piece right now of recapturing our history is our female athletes,
Mm,
because some of them have moved on. Quite a few of them are living quiet lives, and we have to respect their privacy. But
of course.
they have to be acknowledged. Uh, at the top of that list, when the Army team um, really got some momentum behind it, there was a female athlete by the name of Jada Monroe. That was our first female champion. Um, after her, um, after her, it was Rachel Ridenauer from the United States Army, Shailene Potter, and from the Navy, and by far one of the winningest female athletes the Armed Forces has produced, Elizabeth Evans. Um, after those ladies, then there's Petra Cowie, uh, there is Yelena Pisarenko, and uh, I'm trying to remember the names of Michelle Smith's niece, Nashayla Harper, and of course Devin Lewis. So that rounds out our female athletes, and especially the ones that really went in there and kicked some tail and brought back some hardware. But
Hmm.
the first group that I've mentioned, they are they're very difficult to locate. What I do know is Miss Potter is currently living in California. Miss Evans, last time I checked, is in Washington State, but out of respect for her and her privacy, I haven't really made much of an effort to try and reach out to her. Maybe one day I will have a chance to document her journey,
Hmm.
and I'm hoping to do so with Miss Potter. Miss Monroe was recognized by the Taekwondo Hall of Fame in 2009, but afterwards it's difficult, and making sure that all the information that I produce is not only preserved, but it is in chronological order. It's a challenge, but it's one that I am more than willing to take on.
No, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. And this whole, you know, mission that you're on, just from listening to it, you've succeeded beyond measure, sir. And it's a great thing, and I'm sure your your teammates and your fellow servicemen, I'm sure they appreciate it tremendously, because again, we talk about, knowledge is power, and that knowledge comes from history, and that history is meant to inspire the future. So you've definitely succeeded at that.
Thank you.
Um, and so now, what other, you know, now that post military competition, let's talk about a little bit. Um, you now being part of that Masters team, how did that feel stepping back into the ring?
Man, nostalgic because
Hmm.
when I went with the Masters team back to Korea, and my wife was with me, I was
Yes.
happy to be back to a place that I truly called home.
Hmm.
The Second Infantry Division, my time with the Second Infantry Division's Taekwondo team, which was comprised of members of the All Army team when I got there, um, all the lessons I learned. I just I just wanted to show my wife what my life was like up there. I was both happy and nervous to see if any of my old images would remain at Hanson Fieldhouse. They're still there.
Hmm. Oh wow.
Um, myself and Kevin Williams taking a picture with General Coggin after winning the Commanders Cup. Those, I walked into the gym where the team practiced for the first time in years, and this sense of pride and nostalgia washed over me.
Hmm.
It was just so many memories just going into that post. But then linking up with Professor Kapner, who also added his knowledge and experience and his input in my development. Um, Meeting up with Grandmaster Clayton, who at the time was working over there, and just by happenstance, I was able to sit down um, and interview him. Um, I right now that those things, those that opportunity to hear his story, um, to hear his journey, that meant everything to me. But then the piece de la resistance, of course, was standing with the Masters team, standing beside you and that team full of some of the greatest Taekwondo players that I had ever had the opportunity to stand with. That doesn't get any better, man. It really doesn't.
Sure. No, that was a great time. That was a special tournament for all of us, and I know it was very, special for you. You like you said, I remember you left early, to experience all these, memories that you had passed, and I remember you talking to me about it, and it was special. It was special.
I managed to put a Second Infantry Division patch on my U.S. my master's warm up.
Hmm.
That was my last tribute to that unit to be able to wear that patch one final time. Just man,
Yeah.
um, I get goosebumps thinking about it. And then of course when
Hmm.
we all went up to the top of the Taekwondo One to
Yeah.
share that view with you guys.
Hmm.
You, just like with the Armed Forces team, you guys really made me feel welcome, like I was a part of the family. Um, but if anything, visiting your dojang and being able to leave my footprints there, that still stands out to me.
Yeah. Yeah. No, definitely. That was some good training sessions, and when you come back, don't worry about it. The tiramisu is waiting for you.
I
You
knew you
know,
were going to bring that up.
the
Oh my
tiramisu is
goodness.
waiting. But,
You got me addicted to
there's
that stuff.
That's right. That's right. It's waiting for you. Don't even worry about it. I'll make sure my mom has it right in the fridge waiting. So,
Oh,
we
thank you,
we
sir.
train we
Um,
train hard, we smile, we sweat, we laugh, and then we have some good food afterwards.
did you receive that
You
picture I
know, that
sent you, by the way? That
What happened?
I sent you a picture on Facebook Messenger. I believe it was in black and white. It was you, J-Rod,
Yes.
and the other.
Yeah, yeah, and Carlos. Yeah. I see that picture and I think of what they say, hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil. That's us.
That's exactly what I saw when I
you
took the
know, and
picture.
and you know what we're talking about right now, this little inside information is something that I've spoken about on this podcast so many times. How Taekwondo creates bonds that it's very hard for anyone outside of this world to really understand. And obviously, you understand it at a magnified level because not only do you have those Taekwondo bonds, but you have those military bonds,
Oh yeah.
and these are bonds that last forever. The sweat that we leave on the mat all together. That's something that's it's something that is shared with pride and something that just lives with us forever.
Oh
You
yes.
know, and moving forward, you've mentioned some amazing, amazing names on tonight's episode, and we're really, in the show notes. I really want to acknowledge, as many as we can, as many as possible, through your book, through, whatever websites you have for me. But, my final question for the night is if someone were to approach you, in regards of joining the military or joining the military through a martial art, what advice would you give that person?
The advice I would give them is your time in the military is what you make of it. You'll have experiences, some good, some bad, but the bonds that you forge with the people that you serve beside, those are priceless. Value the time that you spend in the military, whether it's for a season or you decide to make a career out of it. Value and treasure those moments because they go fast. Time
Wow.
does fly. Savor it.
Wow.
That's my advice.
No, that's great stuff, sir. You know, again, it was my pleasure to have you on tonight. Thank you so much, sir. I really hope to see you soon. And any special shout outs?
Oh yeah.
Tell if anyone wants to contact you, please tell the audience how they could contact you.
I'm on Facebook. My first name Lewis Davis. Email address lewis.edward.davis@gmail.com. And that's spelled Louis. If you spell Lew, you're going to send that to somebody else.
Right, right, right.
As far as shout outs, all my brothers and sisters of the Armed Forces Taekwondo Team. And that is a very, very long list. Whether I stood beside you for one season or we spent some years together. Lottie, Dottie, everybody. Special shout out to Dr. Michael Bennett because without him believing in me, I wouldn't be right here. Him, Master Todd Angel, Grandmaster Bobby Clayton, Grandmaster Medina, um, Master Kevin Jones, who has been my road dog, Master Johnny Birch, our newest Taekwondo Hall of Fame inductee, um, and of course to my family, my wife, and the Wolfpack family.
Oh, thank you, sir. That's an awesome shout out.
Hey,
Thank you. I
oh,
appreciate
one
that.
last one to Owen Brown. Don't forget I
All
never
right,
forget
my
about you,
man
brother.
Owen. I love that guy. Me and him share the same birthday, May 5th. Love that man. Love that man.
Owen Brown was the one that goaded me and said, "Look, man, you still got something left in the tank. You might want to step up." Well,
Nice.
here we are.
Here we are today. But
So,
thank you, sir. In parting, everyone check out our official apparel company, Best Martial Arts Muto USA, for some amazing Taekwondo gear, equipment, apparel, uniforms. Their info is in the show notes. To Kick Fit for an amazing pair of Taekwondo shoes, BBWOL at checkout for a nice little discount. In parting, as we've done on every single episode of A Black Belt Way of Life. Let's never forget those words my father always said. A black belt is worn around your heart, never your waist.
Heard that.
Thank you, everyone. A Black Belt Way of Life was produced by Press Record Studios.